Nobody has ever seen Chrisean rock like this. Not the fans. Not the blogs. Not even the people who swear they know her energy. Because Chrisean wasn't loud today. She wasn't screaming on live. She wasn't trolling Blueface or throwing shade. She wasn't even wearing the chain she flashes every time she's feeling unstoppable. She was terrified, hair pulled back, hoodie up, shaking hands, clutching a half-dead phone, dragging a bag behind her as she sprinted through a dark, rain-soaked motel parking lot at 2:43 inches the morning. And the reason? Blueface had finally done the one thing everyone prayed he would never do. He sent people after her. Not rumors. Not jokes. Not subliminals on Instagram. Real people. With real directions. With real intentions. It all started 3 hours earlier, when Chrisean showed up at a Motel 8 off the highway, holding JR so tight he could barely move. Her face was swollen from crying, mascara smudged down her cheeks, her hair tied back like she didn't even have the strength to fix it. She walked into that motel lobby barefoot, whispering to the clerk, "Please, don't tell nobody I'm here." She paid in cash. She avoided cameras. She begged for a room, facing away from the street. She didn't sleep. She didn't eat. She just rocked back and forth on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone like she expected it to explode in her hand. Because Blueface wasn't texting this time. He wasn't calling. He wasn't ranting on live. He was sending location pings, not to her, to other people, men she didn't recognize. Men whose numbers weren't saved. Men whose screenshots later showed labeled only as hate. **G2. L. Outside already. And the worst message of all, find her before she makes it to court. That was the moment Chrisean grabbed JR, shoved everything she could into a bag, and ran out of the apartment. She didn't turn off the lights. She didn't shut the door. She didn't think about the cameras. She just grabbed her baby and fled like someone who knew deep in her bones that the danger wasn't online anymore. Meanwhile, one of the motel workers saw everything. The way she kept checking the windows. The way she kept whispering, "Please don't let them find us." The way JR kept saying, "Mommy, scared." And right when she thought she was safe, when she thought the motel was far enough from L.A., quiet enough, empty enough, a blacked-out SUV rolled into the parking lot with the engine off and the headlights dim. 3 men got out. No words. No expressions. Just slow, careful steps toward the back of the building. Chrisean saw them through the curtain, her entire body locked up. She whispered, "Oh my God. They hear. They hear." JR started crying. She covered his mouth gently, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "Baby, shh, please. Mommy here. Mommy here." Her phone buzzed. A new message. From an unknown number. "Stop running." That message nearly made her drop the phone. The men stepped closer. Their shadows stretched across the gravel. One tapped the motel door. Another tried the window. The third one scanned the parking lot like he was checking angles. She had no time left. Chrisean grabbed JR, grabbed her keys, grabbed her bag, and crawled out the bathroom window onto the rain-soaked pavement. Her hoodie dripping, her breath tight, her hands trembling as she sprinted between cars, praying nobody saw her, but one of them did. He turned his head. He whispered into his phone, "I got eyes on her." And that's the moment everything snapped. Chrisean bolted barefoot, desperate, clutching her child like she could shield him from the world with her own body. She didn't scream. She didn't call for help. She knew better. Because when goons are sent after you, nobody hears you scream, nobody steps in, nobody wants to be part of it. She reached her car, hands shaking so violently she dropped the keys twice before unlocking it. She jumped in. JR screamed. She slammed the door. She jammed the key into the ignition. And behind her, the men ran toward the car. The first one yelled, "Don't let her leave." She gunned the engine, reversed so fast she nearly hit a pole, and screeched out of the parking lot while the SUV peeled out behind her. And that's where this nightmare really begins. Because now she's not only running from Blueface, she's running from the men he sent. She's running from the footage. She's running from CPS. She's running from court orders. She's running from people she trusted. She's running from a secret she hasn't told anyone. And she's running with JR in the back seat, crying, terrified, begging for help. This isn't messy. This isn't funny. This isn't Chrisean chaos. This is survival. And someone is helping Blueface track her. The biggest question now? Who is feeding him her exact motel locations? And why do they want her caught before morning? Long before Chrisean sprinted across that motel parking lot with rainwater dripping down her face and JR screaming in her arms, the seeds of this disaster were already planted. The truth is, this didn't start tonight. It didn't start this week. It didn't even start when Blueface started sending threats, subliminals, or goons. It started months earlier in quiet moments, in ignored red flags, in whispered conversations no one was supposed to hear. Long before Chrisean even realized she was in danger, other people had already made plans around her. People she trusted, people she feared, people who smiled in her face but were collecting evidence behind her back, people who wanted something from her, something she didn't realize she had. And at the center of all of it was JR. Not her career, not money, not clout, not revenge. JR. Because the moment Chrisean gave birth to him, she became a threat not because she was dangerous, but because her motherhood disrupted too many people's access, power, and control. The backstory begins 3 months ago, in a quiet L.A. apartment, where something happened that Chrisean never talked about publicly. Everyone thought her breakdowns were about Blueface. Everyone assumed her moods were about drama. Everyone laughed at her rage, her crying fits, her unpredictable energy. But no one knew about the night she woke up at 3 a.m. and found a stranger standing in her hallway, a man with a shaved head, wearing a hoodie, holding one of JR's bottles in his hand like he had been watching the baby sleep. She froze. He froze. Neither moved for a full 5 seconds that replay in her nightmares every single night. Then he smiled and said, "You gotta fix your lock." I walked right in. She never told Blueface about that night. Not because she wanted to protect the man, not because she was scared of exposing him, but because deep down, she knew Blueface would flip it into something against her, use it to call her irresponsible, unstable, unfit, so she stayed quiet. But that man didn't disappear. And that's the part nobody knew until now, not even Tasheki. Because the same man started appearing around her building, her studio sessions, even her gym. Sometimes he didn't say a word. Sometimes he made comments like, "You gotta watch who you trust." But the message was always the same. He was watching her. And the scariest part? He never touched her, never yelled, never threatened violence. He didn't have to. His presence alone was the threat. Meanwhile, Chrisean kept getting into fights with Blueface, not over money, not over other women, but over JR, over where he slept, over who fed him, over doctor appointments, daycare options, who was allowed to babysit, who could post him online. And then the real war started. Custody. Quietly, behind the scenes, before any of this drama went public, Blueface's family began pushing him. She not stable. She always yelling online. She got no support system. You could get full custody if you wanted. And Blueface listened, little by little. He started documenting everything: fights, missed pickups, crying moments, anything that could later be used in a courtroom. He'd record her when she wasn't looking. He saved screenshots of every argument. He encouraged his cousins to film too. But here's the twist. Blueface didn't want custody to save Junior. He wanted it to control her. Because a Chrisean with custody problems is a Chrisean he can manipulate. A Chrisean fighting CPS is a Chrisean who can't speak freely. A Chrisean with legal problems is a Chrisean who won't expose his secrets. That's when he told his family, keep tabs on her. Record anything weird. Save everything. And they did. But what nobody expected, not even Blueface, was that the footage they collected would end up in the police's hands and ignite a firestorm he couldn't control. While Blueface was building a custody case, the mysterious man, the stranger who entered her home, was building something else entirely. He started texting her. At first cryptic messages, then direct ones. You need protection. They're after you. You should leave the city. Trust me. I know more than they do. She blocked him. He made new numbers. She changed phones. He found the new one. And then, 2 weeks ago, he sent a picture of JR, outside their apartment. That was the moment Chrisean's personality changed overnight. That was the moment she started checking locks, pacing at night, arguing with everyone, crying during normal conversations. Everyone thought she was spiraling because of Blueface. Nobody realized she was in a silent war with someone darker. Then came the 3 events that pushed her over the edge. Event Hashon. The threatening knock. She was rocking JR to sleep when someone banged on her door. Not loud, not violent, but slow, deliberate, and rhythmic. She froze. JR froze. When she asked, "Who's there?" A man whispered, "Check your window." She did. Nobody was outside. The whisper wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from inside the apartment hallway wall. Event #2. The recording. She found her smoke detector on the floor, the screws removed. She didn't take it down. She didn't touch it. Someone had been inside her home again. She checked the back door. The lock was scratched. Event #3. The text message that broke her. At 11:17 p.m., she received the message. "You can run, but you won't get far." Attached was a blurry image of the back seat of her car. Her OWN car, taken from inches away. Someone had been inside her vehicle while she was upstairs. She grabbed JR, grabbed her bag, and ran. She didn't even think her instincts took over. She went to the first motel she could find, but someone tipped her location. Someone who knew her patterns. Someone who had access to her phone, her DMs, her movements. And when Blueface sent goons after her that night, she realized the nightmare was bigger than she thought. Because those 3 men weren't there to talk. They weren't there for a fight. They were there to retrieve something she had, something she didn't even know she had. Something connected to that man. Something Blueface wants before she reaches the police. And the question now haunting Chrisean, Tasheki, the police, and the entire internet is simple. What is she carrying that so many people want? And who leaked her motel location to Blueface's goons? When Chrisean sped out of that motel parking lot with JR screaming in the back seat, rain pounding the windshield so hard she could barely see, she didn't fully understand just how many people were coming for her. All she knew was that the black SUV behind her had sped up, headlights cutting through the darkness like blades, and one of the men leaned out the window just long enough for her to see he wasn't filming, he wasn't shouting, he wasn't threatening, he was smiling. A cold, confident smile, the kind a man gives when he knows the chase is already over. Chrisean's breath hitched. She tightened her grip on the wheel. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "JR, baby, hold on." The child sobbed behind her, his tiny hands gripping the straps of his car seat, his voice trembling. "Mommy, don't stop." That broke her, but she couldn't brake now. She gunned the engine, the car swerving onto the highway entrance as the SUV followed, tires screeching, the sound echoing off the wet asphalt. This wasn't random. This wasn't Blueface being petty. This wasn't just a custody trap. This was coordinated. Meanwhile, back in LA, Blueface paced in his kitchen, phone to his ear, whispering furiously into a private call. Y'all said she was at the motel. She's still there or not?" A voice on the other end replied. "She ran. She got the kid. Headed north." Blueface punched the countertop with his fist. "I told y'all don't let her run." But the voice cut him off. "She saw us, bro." "Somebody tipped her." Blueface froze. "Tipped her? Who told her we was coming?" There was silence. The voice said, "It wasn't us." Blueface's jaw tightened. So who the hell warned her? The call ended. For the first time all night, Blueface looked scared. Not because she escaped. Not because she had JR. But because someone else was in this. Someone who wasn't supposed to be. Someone who wanted her on the run. Someone who wanted chaos. Back on the highway, the chase intensified. Rain hammered the roof. Chrisean's tires skidded dangerously. JR cried harder. The SUV edged closer, close enough that she could hear the engine growl behind her. One of the men lowered his window. He signaled to her with one chilling gesture. "Pull over." Her heart stopped. No, I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping." She jerked the wheel and swerved into the next lane, nearly clipping a semi-truck. The horn blared, JR screamed, and the SUV hesitated for a split second, but only a second before speeding up again. But then something happened that she did not expect. A new vehicle pulled onto the highway behind the SUV, dark, unmarked, no headlights, low to the ground. It moved like it wasn't chasing, but watching. It stayed far enough to avoid suspicion but close enough not to lose sight. Chrisean didn't see it. The goons didn't see it, but the camera on the toll booth did. And 20 minutes later, that footage landed on the desk of the same detective who opened the missing child investigation against Blueface and Chrisean. He stared at the screen. "What the hell is that?" Because the second vehicle didn't belong to law enforcement. It wasn't a rental car. It wasn't linked to Blueface. It wasn't linked to Chrisean. It belonged to a man with a sealed record. A man with 3 aliases. A man who had been in Los Angeles for only 8 weeks. A man whose name matched the unknown male voice in that apartment footage. A man who had texted Chrisean, "Stop running." The detective dialed a number urgently. "We have a third party in this chase. Not Blueface. Not the mother. Not a relative. Someone else is following them. Meanwhile, Chrisean took the next exit, trying desperately to lose the SUV. She pulled into a gas station, lights flickering, only one car parked outside, the pavement reflecting the storm above. She jumped out, ran around to check on JR, whispering, "It's okay, baby. It's okay. Mommy got you." Her hands shook so badly she dropped her keys. While she comforted her baby, she didn't notice a shadow moving behind the station dumpster. Someone watching her. Someone waiting. She grabbed JR and ran inside the convenience store, slamming the door behind her. The cashier looked up, startled, as she gasped, "Please! Please call the police. Somebody chasing me." But before the cashier could even reply, her phone buzzed. A new message. From an unknown number. A picture message. Her car. Parked outside. JR's empty car seat. And a caption. "We're closer than you think." She screamed. She grabbed the cashier's phone. Dialed 911, voice shaking uncontrollably. But then she stopped. She realized something. Blueface didn't know this location yet. The goons hadn't arrived yet. She had just pulled in. So how did this number have a picture from this gas station? Within seconds, there was only one explanation. The person texting her was already there. She backed away from the window, pulling JR tightly against her chest. "Mommy! Scared!" he cried. "I know, baby. I know." She crouched behind the counter, heart pounding, tears falling, her mind racing. And then, a loud thud hit the glass door. She flinched so hard she nearly dropped her son. The cashier screamed. The goons had arrived. The SUV screeched into the lot, doors flying open, men running toward the building. But here's the twist. Before they reached the door, the other car, the shadow car, pulled up behind them with no lights, no sound. The driver stepped out slowly, confidently. The goons froze when they saw him. The leader of the goons whispered, "Nah, that ain't who I think it is." But it was. It was the same man from the apartment footage. The same man who said he'd handle JR. The same man who walked into her home uninvited. The same man who threatened her. And he wasn't working for Blueface. He wasn't one of Blueface's people at all. He was something worse. He was someone Blueface himself was scared of. Someone he once said, "I ain't never crossing, dude. He dangerous." The goons stepped back. The unknown man stepped forward. The power dynamic flipped instantly. This wasn't a chase anymore. This was a confrontation. The man looked at the goons and said, "She's mine." The leader stuttered. We got orders to bring her." He cut him off. "Not anymore." The goons hesitated, terrified to go against the man, terrified to go back to Blueface empty-handed. Inside the store, Chrisean watched through the cracks behind the counter, eyes wide, whispering to herself, "No, no, 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 not him, not here." JR cried into her shoulder. She covered his ears, because she knew exactly what this meant. Blueface wasn't the biggest danger. The goons weren't the biggest danger. CPS wasn't the biggest danger. This man had been following her long before tonight, and now he had tracked her to a gas station in the middle of the storm. The security cameras captured the moment he walked toward the store. Not fast, not aggressive, but slow, confident, like he knew she wasn't escaping again. He stopped inches from the door, rain dripping from his hood. He lifted his phone, sent her one more message. Her phone buzzed. She looked down. It said, "Open the door." The episode ends here, because what happens when that door opens will change everything, and reveals a truth none of the players saw coming. Rain hammered the glass door as the unknown man stood perfectly still, hood dripping, his phone still raised as if he already knew exactly where Chrisean was hiding. The goons froze behind him, 3 grown men who had chased her across miles of dark highway, now terrified to take another step. That's how dangerous he was. Inside the gas station, Chrisean crouched behind the counter with JR trembling in her arms. The cashier whispered, "Do you know him?" But her voice was so tight with fear that Chrisean couldn't answer. Her throat locked up. She didn't know him. She survived him. For months. She peeked through the narrow opening between the counter and the shelf, her breath shallow, her hands shaking. The man's chest rose and fell slowly, like he had all the time in the world, like he was enjoying the fear radiating from inside. Then he reached up and quietly tapped the door with one finger. Tap, tap, tap. Each tap echoed through her body like a heartbeat she could not control. The goons exchanged glances. "He ain't with Blueface?" one whispered. "Nah," the leader muttered. "Blue told us do not cross that man. So, Why he here? The leader swallowed. He was looking for her too. That sentence made the cashier drop an entire box of gum. The clatter made Chrisean flinch so violently she nearly screamed. The man outside slowly turned his head toward the sound. Not fast. Just enough to let her know. He heard it. He stepped closer to the door, lifted his hand, pressed his palm against the glass, and whispered loud enough for the building's frame to vibrate. "Open it." His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was the kind of calm that makes bones freeze. Chrisean grabbed JR tighter and shook her head. "No, no, no, please no." But the man didn't care. He lowered his hand and pulled something out of his pocket. Not a gun. Not a knife. A keycard. A motel keycard. Her motel keycard. The one she used hours earlier. He held it between two fingers like proof that he had already been inside her room. Proof that he wasn't chasing her. He was tracking her. The cashier whispered, "Oh my God," as tears welled in Chrisean's eyes. She covered her mouth to muffle her sob. Terrified he'd hear her breathing. Outside, the goons tried to step back toward the SUV, but the man turned his head slightly and said, "Y'all leaving?" They froze. "No, You think I'm finished here?" They didn't answer. They didn't dare. Meanwhile, inside the store, Chrisean's phone buzzed again. Another message. This time with an attachment. A photo of JR, taken hours ago. In the parking lot outside her apartment. It wasn't Blueface taking these photos. It wasn't the cousin. It wasn't a fan. It wasn't paparazzi. It was him. The man outside. Chrisean finally broke, whispering, "Please, please, stop." Her tears fell onto JR's hoodie. The cashier, terrified but trying to help, quietly dialed 911 behind the counter. But before they could speak, the lights flickered, then shut off. The store went pitch black. Chrisean gasped. JR screamed. The cashier grabbed the counter for balance. The refrigerators hummed to a stop. The storm hadn't knocked the power out. He cut it. Footsteps approached the door. Soft. Slow. Measured. Then a new sound. Metal sliding. The lock turning. Someone had used a master key. The door creaked open. Rain blew in through the doorway. But the silhouette standing there wasn't him. It was one of the goons. The leader. But his face was pale. Shaking. Unsteady. He had his hands up, whispering to someone behind him. "Bro, she in here, just don't make me." A voice cut him off from the doorway. "Move." It wasn't loud, but the goon stepped aside instantly. The unknown man entered the store. All black. Dripping rainwater. Hood low over his eyes. Breathing slow and steady. He shut the door behind him. Locked it. Turned the deadbolt. Then said one sentence that made Chrisean's vision blur from fear. "You got something that belongs to me." Her heart dropped so hard she almost fainted. "What? What did I take?" she whispered through trembling lips. He walked further inside, boots squishing on the wet floorboards. "Don't play stupid, Chrisean." He looked around the store, scanning every aisle. Then he stopped. He turned his head exactly toward the counter she was hiding behind, like he could see in the dark. "Come out." She didn't move. "Come out." He reached into his jacket. The cashier sobbed. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a flash drive. Small, black, worn out, with a chipped corner. He held it up like a trophy. "This is mine. You took it. I want it back." Chrisean shook her head violently. "I don't know what that is. I swear, I don't know what that is." He exhaled slowly, disappointed. "You didn't know what you had." "But they did." "They?" she whispered. The man smirked. "You think Blueface sent his people for you?" He laughed under his breath. "No. They were sent to get this." He shook the flash drive. That's when the cashier gasped quietly. "That's why the cousin was recording. That's why they wanted the bag. They weren't after you. They were after whatever's on that drive." The man nodded once, then said the sentence that shattered everything. "You weren't supposed to find it." Chrisean blinked through tears. "Find what? What's on it?" He crouched down slowly, eyes darkening. "This flash drive has footage of something Blueface can never let the court see." Her stomach twisted. "Footage of what?" He leaned closer and whispered, "The night JR was taken from your apartment. The first time." Chrisean's world collapsed. "What?" she choked. Because that night she never talked about. The night she woke up screaming. The night she swore she heard someone whisper in her hallway. Blueface told everyone she imagined it. He told her she imagined it. He said she had postpartum episodes. He said she was confused. He said she dreamed it. But now, She had proof. Proof that she wasn't crazy. Proof that someone entered her home. Proof that a man picked up JR. Proof that Blueface KNEW. The unknown man stared at her. You think he didn't know? He hired me. Chrisean's lungs collapsed. He hired you? The man stood up, taking one slow step back. He hired me to scare you. Not take the kid. Not hurt you. Just scare you enough to give him control. Her knees buckled. Why? Why would he do that to me? The man tilted his head. Custody, sweetheart. He needed proof you were unstable. JR whimpered. And that's when the man delivered the final blow. But one night, I saw something I wasn't supposed to see on his cameras, on his footage, and I made a copy for insurance. He held up the flash drive. That's why he wants it back. And why I want you. The lights flickered back on. The man took off his hood, and Chrisean's breath caught in her throat, because she recognized him. He wasn't a stranger. He wasn't random. He wasn't new. He was someone from Blueface's circle. Someone trusted. Someone who had been in their house before. Someone who had carried JR before. Someone who had been around since the beginning. The episode ends here, because the next chapter reveals exactly what's on that flash drive, and the truth will destroy Blueface's entire case, career, and family. The moment the man pulled his hood off and revealed his face, the world inside that tiny gas station collapsed. Chrisean's breath stopped. Her body froze. Her mind couldn't process what she was seeing, because the face staring back at her wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a random stalker. It wasn't some hired thug. It was someone she had trusted, someone she had invited into her home, someone Blueface had vouched for, someone she once called family. Her voice broke. You? You were the one. In my apartment? He didn't flinch. You left the back door unlocked. She shook her head violently. No, I didn't. I never leave that door open. He smiled. You didn't. Blueface did. That sentence punched the air out of her lungs, because it explained everything. The scratches on the lock, the missing smoke detector, the bottle placed by JR's crib, the whisper through the wall. The nights she felt watched, Blueface had let him in. Not once, not twice, multiple times, to scare her, to destabilize her, to push her toward a breakdown, to build a custody case. She clutched JR against her chest so hard he whimpered. Why? Why are you doing this? She whispered. He walked toward her slowly. You think I'm doing this for him? She swallowed hard. You said he hired you. I said he hired me to scare you. He stepped closer. I never said I was still working for him. Her heart dropped. What do you want from me? He held up the flash drive, the tiny, battered piece of plastic that had turned her life into a catastrophic nightmare. This. I want this. Because what's on here? He leaned in. Changes everything. Her hands shook uncontrollably. What's on it? She whispered. He didn't answer at first. Instead, he pressed play on a small, portable device attached to his pocket. The screen lit up with a loading icon. Then the video began. And the footage didn't show her, didn't show JR, didn't show anything inside her apartment. It showed Blueface's living room. Late at night. Dim lighting. Only one lamp on. The camera slightly tilted, hidden, secret, recording without consent. Blueface wasn't alone. He wasn't arguing. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't on the phone. He was sitting on the couch, holding a blanket, a baby blanket, JR's blanket. The man watching the footage with her said softly, "Keep watching." Blueface lifted the blanket and stared at it, not angry, not confused, but emotional. His voice shook. "I don't want to do this to her," he whispered. A second voice entered the frame. "You already did. You hired me." Blueface exhaled, rubbing his face. This was supposed to scare her, not break her. The unknown man's voice snapped back. "If she breaks, you win custody." Blueface didn't respond. He just stared at the blanket, like he didn't recognize the monster he had become. Then the camera caught the unknown man putting something on the table, a small device. The same flash drive. The same one in his hand right now. On the footage, Blueface whispered, "Make sure she never finds that." The man smirked at the screen. "Well, she found it." The footage cut off. Chrisean's entire world spun. Her vision blurred with tears. She clutched JR so tight he whimpered. Every muscle in her body trembled. Blueface wasn't trying to protect his son. He wasn't trying to build a case. He wasn't trying to save JR from her. He was trying to destroy her emotionally, mentally, psychologically, until she broke so badly that a courtroom would hand him full custody without a second thought. He hired someone to threaten her, to scare her at night, to move things around in her home, to watch her sleep, to make her think she was losing her mind. Chrisean sobbed into her son's hair. Why? Why would he do that to us? The man didn't blink. You think he cares about us? He cares about winning. She shook her head. No. Blueface loves his son. The man cut her off sharply. He loves control. Her heart cracked open. He thinks if he gets the kid, he owns you. The words echoed like gunshots in the empty gas station. Chrisean broke down completely. But the man wasn't finished. He kneeled beside her, eyes cold. You changed the plan when you ran. You weren't supposed to get the drive. You weren't supposed to know the truth. You weren't supposed to see the footage. She looked up, terrified. So why are you here now? He leaned in close, too close, and whispered. Because once Blueface finds out, he'll send more than goons. Her stomach twisted. What do you mean? The man slowly pointed to the door. The goons were gone. The SUV was gone. But another car, bigger and darker, had pulled into the lot. A group of men stepped out. Not cousins, not friends, not goons. These men were dressed in black gloves, black jackets, black boots, and they moved with military precision. The man whispered, "You're not running from him anymore. You're running from them." She held JR tighter. Who are they? The man stood up, eyes grim. The people he hired when he realized losing custody wasn't an option anymore. He stepped back, pulled his hood over his head, then said the most chilling line yet. They're not coming for you. They're coming for the child. The world stopped, and the episode ends here, because the next chapter isn't a chase, isn't a feud, isn't about drama anymore. It becomes a full-on race for survival. And that's where this story stops, for now right on the edge of the darkest turn yet. This isn't about petty drama anymore. This isn't about messy breakups or custody threats or viral lives. This isn't even about goons, footage, or Blueface's twisted plans. This is about something far bigger, far darker, and far more dangerous than anyone realized. Because now we know the truth. Blueface wasn't just trying to win custody. He wasn't just trying to expose Chrisean. He wasn't just collecting videos. He hired a man with no past, no identity, no loyalty, a man who broke into her home, who stalked her steps, who threatened her in the dark, who knew her routine, her passwords, her hiding places, a man meant to scare her into breaking down so badly the courts would hand JR over without a fight. But the plan backfired. This man didn't just record her. He recorded Blueface too. He held onto evidence even Blueface didn't know he kept. And now that Chrisean has seen the truth, now that the flash drive exists, now that the footage proves Blueface orchestrated everything, they're not just coming for her anymore. They're coming for JR. Before you click off this video, I need you in the comments right now. Do you think Blueface knew the man was keeping extra footage? Do you think the hired team will stop at anything? Do you think this man is protecting her? Or using her to protect himself? And most importantly, where do you think Chrisean and JR should go now? Stay hiding? Go to police? Try to expose everything? Your theories are everything. Every comment forces this video into the algorithm and puts a spotlight exactly where it needs to be. So like this video if you want part 2 as soon as possible. Comment your prediction who's behind the new team in black. Share this video to your group chats, because people need to know this story isn't just trending, it's unfolding in real time. And hit subscribe with all notifications on, because the moment the next piece of the flash drive footage drops, or when the team in black makes their move, or when Blueface finally realizes his secret plan has been exposed, I will be here breaking down every twist the second it happens. Stay alert, stay watching. The real war is just beginning.